neither of us knew the language, but the United States Bethel branch sent us to Little Rock, Arkansas, to a sign language group. It wasn't a congregation yet, so we were assigned there, and that's where we learned the language.
Good, thank you. We'll ask Brother Randy now. So tell us, Brother Randy, what are some of the challenges with witnessing to the deaf?
Language is one of the challenges. Not all deaf people, most deaf people don't understand English, so it's imperative for those of us that are hearing to learn their language, of course. And then, of course, you have, it's not just the language, it's also the culture that has to be given attention to as well. But getting to know what's on the minds of deaf people, what's going to be interesting to them. Some of those things overlap in the English field, but some of those things are unique. And so a perfect example would be, for example, the part we just had with Brother Peter with the Watchtower. In sign language, at least in American Sign Language, the public edition of the Watchtower and the Awake are not translated into sign language. So we wouldn't have that as an offer in our ministry, so we would have to substitute that part for something else. So for this particular week, our particular article in the Kingdom Ministry was searching for deaf and how to do that effectively. So we have to be able to make adjustments like that so that we can be effective in the ministry.
But tell us how you make use of technology. Many of us are starting to make good use of technology. How is that used in the deaf field?
There's kind of a two-part answer to that. With our meetings, we make use of videos and monitors. So, for example, at our hall, in a sign language hall, you'd have two 60-inch televisions on either side of the stage, and that would allow the audience to not only see the speaker, but also if someone's giving a comment, they raise their hand and either stand or sit, and there's usually a camera on the stage behind the speaker that will zoom in on the person who's giving the comment, and that their picture or their image would be displayed on the picture as well, so we can see their comment. So that's kind of on the meeting side. And the ministry, it kind of is a throwback to when the brothers used to use the recordings at the doors. We usually take either portable DVD players or iPads to the door, and the branch has the video files on jw.org, and we're able to use the iPad to show them the Bible in their language straight from that particular device, which makes it very convenient.
Good, so the governing body endorses us all having an iPad. If you haven't got one, you can go and get one. We're allowed to have them now. Now, just earlier before, when we were talking about what we're going to discuss, you mentioned some of the theocratic language. So American Sign Language and Auslan would have standardised translation, but you have to make some exceptions for theocratic language. So tell us a little bit about that.
So for theocratic language, usually with translation, the brothers, for the most part, take great pains not to try to reinvent the language of the common people. However, as you mentioned, when it comes to theocratic terminology, some of those things do have to be created. So there, for example, Jehovah's Name. Individuals who know sign language in the territory would not necessarily have a sign for that. So the brothers have created a sign for Jehovah's Name. Jesus is fairly common, so that one is used. But there's also some signs that have to be changed for accuracy purposes. For example, I'll have Renee hold the mic if it's okay to demonstrate.
Right.
In American Sign Language, typically the sign for Bible would be this. And what that means is, this is Jesus. And again, because sign language is sort of visual, this is Jesus because he was up on. And it's interesting. You see pictures of Jesus like this, but his sign name, it shows that the nails were in his hands as if he was up like that. But anyway, this is Jesus, and this is book. So in the ministry, they say the Bible is Jesus' book. Well, we know that it's really God's book, and Jesus is not God. So when we go out in the ministry, for common ground purposes, we will use that so they know what we're talking about. But then once we get them into a study, once we get them to the Kingdom Hall, the sign for Bible that the brothers have come up with is this, which basically is the letter B in sign language, and this is the sign for law. So it's God's law, and that would be one of the changes that they would make for a theocratic term.
Great, thanks. And finally, what's the response like in the deaf community when they meet someone that has made the effort to learn their language? How do they respond? Maybe Sister Renee can tell us that.
In our particular territory, it's a lot like the English territory. It's because there's a huge population of deaf. They're really not impressed with the fact that we've learned the language at all. When we were in Arkansas, they were more so because there weren't that many people that could sign. They are, however, impressed with the quality of the language that the brothers have on the DVD, so they actually do comment on that. But we have to use the same techniques that you use in English to get interest. You know, they're very political. So if you can ask them about government, about anything that was recent on the news, things like that is really what will draw them in, not so much the language.
Great. Thanks very much, Brother and Sister Hughes. We appreciate it, didn't we?